What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm your Morrow, storyteller for today. With me I have some more RPG horror stories. You're here at the Morrow debut, not a debut. Ever since I debuted as my first stream ever, I do want to get back to doing some more streams at some point throughout this year. Completely unrelated to any of the videos, has anybody had like a horrible dream when then you wake up and suddenly you just had like a sigh of relief? I had a dream last night where it was October of this year and the month was already over. So that was horrifying because the year just started and I was like, oh no, I didn't even get to do anything this year. Oh no. So that was a horror story of its own, but let's get some RPG horror stories for today. Interesting player backstory. Hey DMs, wanted to know what you would do with a backstory submission by a player. I think I know what I'm going to do, but I want to see what some of the others thought of it. Campaign launches out in November. Mix of Lost Mines and Dragon of Icespire. Party is meeting in a tavern after responding to an ad for escort/hired muscle. Level 3 characters. Player is playing a Zerial Tiefling Conquest Paladin. 6'6", 250 pounds, imposing martial look with reddish skin, which darkens when in rage. Backstory. I'll give you the short version, but keep the description in pertinent words. Raised in the 9 hells by devils and demons, tasked by Zerial to go up to the Faerun, travel to Neverwinter, and publicly murder Lord Neverember. They were given a ring before leaving the 9 hells that makes them look human to hide their true heritage while in plain sight. They became a squire in Neverwinter. They progressed through the ranks over 20 years, gaining fame and popularity, and progressed to become a decreed as Neverember's Knights Commander. During the ceremony for new rank, this character defied Zerial and refused to publicly slay Neverember. Zerial broke the ring, revealing his true self to the public, a tiefling in Knight Commander's armor. Everyone drew weapons and were prepared to kill the demon that stood before them. The character begged not to be killed and mentioned all he had done for Neverwinter. He was spared, but stripped of all armor and titles and banned. He wandered for days before finding a small village. They repaired an old smithy and started blacksmithing, swearing to never hide who he was again. He became a master at his art, and people came from all over the world to place orders from Tiefling's blacksmith. Once a Knight Commander of the Kingdom of Neverwinter, now a modest blacksmith. We're doing 2024 rules, point by starting equipment. Looking at the character sheet, he has 17 strength and 17 charisma at level 3. I see a 1-point modifier was added to the strength score. Took soldier background. Added smith tool proficiency. Added smith tools. He added a warhammer and fine clothes. Added plate armor. Still has 54 gold. Zero mention of anything about being a paladin or an oath, other than swearing to not hide they're a tiefling. Okay, I must say something, and maybe some people may not agree with me, but this is my genuine thoughts. I love Baldur's Gate 3. I loved everything about it. I love playing it from start to finish, and I would love to play it again with some friends again, and just to have a silly, goofy little time playing as a modded kobold or something. However, the backstories for a lot of the companions, in my opinion, are a little bit too epic. Just a little bit too epic. And here's the thing, right? I get it. Let's say, for example, I don't know, let's take a really cool character, Will, right? Will from Baldur's Gate 3. He's a Blade of Frontiers, thwarted Tiamat directly, and they had this whole great story and epic tale. But then you watch him at level 2 get struck down by a stinky goblin arrow. It's like, really? You're the Blade of Frontiers? And I get it. The whole point is to be able to level up and stuff. That's the whole point of the RPG, is to level up and everything. But imagine if a character, like a regular player character, had the same thing, had the same kind of epic backstory. They've done all these amazing, incredible things at this low level and stuff. And suddenly a stinky goblin arrow takes him down. No rolling death saving throws because it literally hit him in the little ouchie boo-boo spot, and suddenly they're basically dying from a goblin arrow. Couldn't be defeated by Tiamat, killed by goblin. Wow, what a downfall, you know? In a very similar sense, this feels very Baldur's Gate 3 kind of backstory, where you've done all these amazing things before even becoming level 3, and now you're just level 3, which is okay. I think it's fine. I don't know. It really depends on the DM. Like, what I say really won't matter at the end of the day. I'm just a stinky tiefling on the internet. My opinions really do not matter. It's all about what your DM thinks. And if you are the DM that wrote this OP, then I guess what are your thoughts on it? I think this is a cool thing if you really are okay with high fantasy backgrounds and stuff, but also this feels like this overstuffs your background with a lot of crazy things. Like the player, at least to me, I wouldn't approve of this. I'll try to see if I can dial it back a little bit to try to get the character at least started in some capacity, get it started some way. This feels like somebody had like a really cool story already as part of a campaign, and now they're living the after story or some such. That's just what it feels like to me, at least. When you make it a character, I think the best thing to really do is to put down the most basis of ways of how your character got to where they gotten, without overblowing the amount of important stuff they've done in the past, like being like a wanted criminal somewhere, or going out to work up the ranks for 20 years and such, and going this and that and other. Something a little more grounded, pull back a little bit on the epicness and more hardcore onto like a more realistic storyline. Being from the hells and being sent by Zerial to do some sort of a mission that you failed is all well and good, and I think it's fine, especially if you failed, so you went and just became a humble little smith and decided to pick up life adventure on the side because of, I don't know, maybe a flyer said, you know, paid work for this, and you decided, well, there's a little bit of lull in the business, so I guess I'll do that for now. Let's go to the shop for 3 months and go on this adventure, see what this adventure is like. Gotta be one thing, but instead we have becoming a knight commander of all this stuff after 20 years, almost executing a grand noble and stuff, having no ring broken and their trust with Zero broken entirely, and then being removed from everything, and then now becoming a humble smith that is now also a master smith that everybody comes to serve on him and everything. Once a knight commander and now a master smith, and now everybody wants to become master of his art and come over from all over the world to place an order from a tiefling blacksmith and stuff. I feel like the bones are there, but it's just a little bit overblown. Just a little bit overblown in my opinion. The biggest thing I personally find here is your character starts off with plate armor from the very beginning at level 3. I don't know how many players start off with plate armor, but from what I've seen, at least in starting equipment for 2014 or 2024 D&D, I don't believe plate armor is a thing that you just start with. I think chainmail is the most easiest starting equipment that a player can start off with. Starting off with plate, which on average is 1,500 gold, unless you're starting off with a high budget campaign or like high budget per player, that's a lot. That's a whole lot to do. Oh my god, for humble blacksmith to have plate after they were stripped of the armor from the backstory, again referencing back the backstory, that seems like a lot, dude. Is that just me? Regarding the paladin oath, yeah, I feel like there should be some sort of rewrite to include the paladin oath somewhere to figure out how they got the oath initially, because I mean, if they just like paladin stuff, all they gotta do is just tack on the side like, oh yeah, ever since after that they're taking on this oath and they decided to just do this instead. Maybe another god, you know, some sort of other divine blessed them with some other greater power to let them continue. Maybe they retained their oath, I don't know. But this kind of backstory I wouldn't personally approve. I would ask for heavy adjustments. With the bones like there, you just a little bit too much meat on it. Let's continue with the next story for today, shall we? DM has never heard of balance. Literally stunned by the idea. Some friend of mine said I should pose this here. After reading for a while this is not nearly as dramatic as the others, I don't wish the DM any ill will. He just wasn't very good at balancing, and it came across pretty poorly until I stormed out. Okay, so backstory. My friend and I, who worked together at Burger Joint in the middle of nowhere, were desperate for to get back to D&D. Played in high school, but couldn't find enough people to create a full party, and one-on-one D&D just wasn't the same. We got hired to flip burgers, and turns out almost everyone there has played and had a really great time. DM was a shift manager. He was a genuinely kind person who wasn't the best employee, but was a great manager. One more than occasion, he sent me down the block to buy him weed, lol. Words get out that he's looking to start up a new game. Anyone who wants to can join. Don't sweat the details, make the character you want to play, and we can make it work. Sounds sweet. My friend and I used to very rigid, greedy stuff imposed by high schoolers with some kind of complex. Session 1. We all arrived at DM's apartment around the same time. I lived close enough to walk, but immediately noticed more cars than the parking lot was built to hold. A few parked on the curb. A flat sharing of space for a motorcycle. It was packed. It became clear when I knocked on the door that it was more of a house party than a D&D session. About a dozen people unloading snacks and beer. DM was pulling up atmosphere on the living room TV. Half the people were from work and the other half total strangers. That's fine. Never played with a party that big, but let's see how it goes. We all settled and introduced ourselves. Small town, so most of us had a mutual friend or family member. This sounds less like a D&D get-together and more like you guys are playing like for a live audience, or people are just gonna be partying and drinking while you guys are playing through. Which I've never imagined doing that, but you know what? If somebody was like, yo, we're gonna play D&D, we got beers and snacks so you can watch and be part of an audience member, dude, I would gladly sign up. That sounds like a get-together that I'd be totally down for. Sounds like you'd be chill. Whenever something awesome happens, you'd be just like peanut gallery cheering along, going, ooh, ah, ooh, oh, you know, just like getting excited for stuff. I don't know. It'd be like almost like watching a live play, but I guess in person, which would be, I guess, kind of interesting, but also probably a lot of pressure for the people that are playing because it's now like a whole performance. Then the session begins. We all wash up on an island. No memory of how we got there or where to go next. My 4 elements monk gets some eye rolls, but everyone is having fun overall. First combat comes around. As I walk through the jungle towards smoke rising in distance, hooded cultists jump out and attack. Roll initiative. Surprise round. Warlock go first. Every warlock takes the same action. Cast Fireball. When we eventually get to go, most of the cultists drop 1 or 2 hits, but anytime it's their turn again, they only ever cast the one spell. Our warlock player says he's going to commune with his patron, to which he and DM excuse themselves into the bedroom to have a private conversation. A very awkward 20 minutes later, they return, and all the remaining cultists have heart attacks and die. Ask about how they can cast Fireball so many times, since warlocks can usually only cast 2 spells. It's not even available on the warlock spell list. DM hand waves it by saying they all carry a magic gem that lets them cast Fireball as much as they want. Party collects all the gems. DM doesn't think much of it. What? Hold on 1 second. The balance here is completely off. Listen, I don't want to be that guy, but I want to actually DM. Warlocks don't get Fireball unless they pick the Fiend Patron, and they can only get Fireball at 5th level, DM. Listen, I have to be that guy. I play a Warlock main. Warlocks are great, don't get me wrong, and Warlocks can get access to unique, really cool spells depending on which subclass they pick specifically. If you want to be a Blaster caster that flings out fireballs, Fiend Patron, you're gonna love it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fantastic. At level 14, you get to do this really cool thing to send somebody through hells. It's funny, it's hilarious, 100%. But ultimately, it just feels like maybe, just maybe, your DM is being a little bit too easy on your Warlocks, and just make it a little bit easy if they just cast Fireball at will. You know what it's gonna turn into? Nobody in the rest of the party will be able to do anything ever again because the 2 warlocks just cast Fireball on the turn and end the turn, and the combat is over there. That's gonna make it extremely lazy. Also, what is that whole thing about going up to the room for 20 minutes? What are they doing? Give them sexual favors just to have the enemies all have a heart attack or something? What is going on here? I dare say there might be a hint of favoritism going on here, but I digress. Let's continue. Session 2. Same parking issue as before. Scheduling conflicts mean a few people are out, but still have like 10 party members. We get through the jungle to find a cultist camp. Put a figure moving the tent to tent. Stealth mission. My friend and I go to investigate. I keep watch while the rogue goes into a tent to find out who these guys are. Some find a small wooden box in a corner and opens it. DM's face changes to pure horror as he asks, "You don't check for traps?" My friend lives by no takes backsies, so the effect resolves. 10d8 lightning damage, no save. We were level 3. Immediately kills my friend's character and reduces her to ash. No save? What? I get some traps are just traps, but to not include at least a save for a chance for a player to potentially survive is crazy. What kind of a DM do you have to be so punishing to the player? It's like, okay, you better hope the dice roll low instead of potentially giving a save. Like, what? Don't most traps have a save? Unless you're playing something like Tomb of Annihilations, I don't think you have really... I mean, I don't think it's baseline for traps just to be so, like, extremely punishing. Typically, you just have a save to potentially turn into a half or, like, a full damage, you know? Kind of go from there. Give players that fighting chance, you know? In a game of chance, giving players a chance is only fair. We're not too upset. After the first session, we kind of expected more of a meat grinder. Only issue is that happens within 50 minutes of starting the session. Number friend just had to sit there and do nothing for the next 4 hours. They go off to play with DM's cat and hang in the kitchen. Party stomps the camp. I couldn't tell you how many fireballs get cast in the first round. Eventually, there's one warlock remaining and the druid interrogates about what they're doing. They try to summon a dragon at the top of the volcano. The ritual begins tonight. Session 3. Different few folks can make it, so we spend some time gathering those who weren't there last time caught up. We start the hike up towards the volcano, encounter my friend's new ranger character, and move upward. We take a break in an abandoned shack to rest. Druid reveals she has an evil genie in a bottle that grants wishes, but like in an evil way. The warlock shows off his Warple sword, and someone else uses sovereign glue to attach a scrap of fabric to the warlock's tail. PvP nearly ensues. We move on. Necklace that lets you cast ultimate fireballs and a Warple sword? Okay, man, dude, there's some sort of bedroom favoritism going on there. And I mean bedroom favoritism. Are they just asking their, like, daddy, sugar daddy patron, sugar mommy patron for all these gifts and stuff? Crazy. Unless you're playing this kind of, unless it's just the kind of pace that they are used to, or maybe the DM is just so focused on trying to entertain everybody. Dude, this is just insane. This is a crazy story. This is nuts. It's just insane. But it's nuts enough for me to still make it believable. So we're just gonna continue on and move on from there. We arrive at the volcano just as the warlocks are finishing the ritual, instantly destroying them with fireballs, of course. But the dragon rises out of the lava. Buy the book Ancient Red Dragon. A few of us die, we can't do any damage, and we're all frightened, so we just run away. We'll find a small shipping village for each requisition boat to take us out separate ways. We each get an epilogue and find out our party inherited a mansion in a city somewhere, and we would start our next arc by moving in. What? Huh? Hold on. So they don't die. Okay, so some of them die, but nothing does it whatsoever. And of course they can't do damage because they all just have fireballs, and red dragons are going to be immune to fireballs. Ancient red dragons, of course. Like, they just run away and inherit the mansion anyway. The story continues. Crazy twist, but let's see this. Session 4 was uneventful. Parking issues, new missing players, no combat this time around. Setting up the mansion meeting with Shifty King. Pretty much each doing our own thing. One out of work, I'm closing with DM. Just the two of us. We always talk about stuff DM to DM. Ideas and stuff to bounce off each other. That's where I planted the seeds of my current 3-year-long weekly game. I work up the courage to bring up his balance issue. How powerful spells and items were making the combat and player choices feel a little meaningless. I asked him if he had a process for balancing that I wasn't picking up on. He asked me what balancing is. When I realized he wasn't kidding, I tried to walk him through my process. Not exactly CR calculus, but making sure the characters with their items and abilities will likely be on even footing when whatever they're up against, and then turning knobs to make things easier or harder depending on what serves the story. His expression was indescribable. Somewhere between befuddlement and outrage. He stopped cleaning and just sat on the floor for a bit. I joined him, but I couldn't figure out what was wrong. Neither could he, kind of. He just couldn't handle the concept of mechanics serving a story is the best I could put together. Next time we closed together, he excitedly showed me his idea for a Christmas one-shot. Our characters would fight an evil snowman. He found a stat block on Reddit and was very excited to use it. He would cast Cone of Cold at will and teleport behind mounds of snow. What the hell? Cone of Cold and teleport behind mounds of... Okay, your DM needs to genuinely learn about balance. I think that's the biggest problem with your DM. The fact that they were astonished by the idea of balance is... Oh my god. Oh my god. Have you showed them this subreddit? Have you showed them what kind of things DMs do on here so they can learn from it? I feel like you should. I feel like this would be a great learning material too. Oh my god. Christmas one-shot. Whole cruise together. A bunch of us carpooled, so no parking issues. Plus, I don't have to walk in the snow. Start out at Shifty King's dining hall. We're invited for dinner. The king poisons everyone's food. Anyone who eats it passes out. My character was a vegetarian, so he wouldn't have eaten the food. I don't remember how I ended up joining the party, lol. We'll wake up in an icy tundra covered in snow and frost surrounded by featureless snowmen. Around 3 dozen mounds of snow. One of them turns into evil snowman from red and battle ensues. Roll initiative, my turn. Run up and punch it. Do a little damage. I promised I wouldn't metagame, so I stayed right up in Cone of Cold range. To my surprise, Cone of Cold does not right drop me. I make my save. Still take heavy hits, but still standing. DM shoots me a look as proud of himself. It doesn't last long. Monster teleported around the battlefield, blasting entire party. Half of us are down, other half on no last legs. DM tells us we should be appreciative. He changed the damage dice from D8s to a D6 to give us better chances. We'll be dead already otherwise. Nail in the coffin when was his DMPC figures out the pattern that we didn't even know to look for and kills the monster. DM was surprised that none of us picked up on the fact that he said the monster appears to randomly teleport. I'd had enough. I got up and walked home in the snow. We stopped talking about D&D at work. Oh my god. I changed it from a D8 to a D6. Ha! Ain't that so good? Don't I know balance all of a sudden? If you have a party full of level 3s and such, and they're getting blasted by Cone of Cold, regardless if it's a D6 or D8, the effects behind Cone of Cold, and maybe also the saving throw that is set up for Cone of Cold specifically to be blasted at will. Like, oh my god, limits exist, and this DM needs to learn about limits, especially limiting what DMPC quote-unquote figured. Of course your DMPC figured it out. You're the DM. You designed the pattern. So of course your DMPC would know this because like, wait a minute guys, what if we follow the pattern of this snowman? Yeah, no duh. Of course your DMPC would figure it out. You the DM, you designed the pattern. Of course your DMPC magically miraculously just figures out the pattern. Like seriously, what the hell? I get if you want to have a DMPC talk about being some sort of a pattern and stuff, but then you probably want to do it like a diegetic lore friendly way. I don't know, have the DMPC call out, there must be some way to defeat this thing. Try to look out for it to see if it teleports somewhere or how it teleports and stuff. I don't know, some sort of a hint. Throw them a bone. Don't just completely take away the bone and just wiggle it in front of them. I was invited back to this Rime of the Frost Maiden game. I thought he might be alright running a module. I agreed. Plans fell through. I moved away. I still think about it. It gives me anxiety as a DM. How do I stop my players from feeling the way I did? Can I live up to their expectations? Are they having fun? A lot of the issues mentioned here can be solved with a session 0 to establish tone and themes, communication to voice concern, even just like reading the rules. Try to take that into my game to ensure that everyone's having a good time. 3 years later, I haven't received any complaints, but I still worry. Hope he's reading this. I'd love to run a game for him sometime. Just please cool it with a fireball. Honestly, because you're still concerned about it, and because you still consider it as a potential factor, even after 3 years, I think ultimately just shows that you are a wonderful and amazing DM. DMs, you don't have to be an amazing DM, incredible DM. Like, you don't have to run perfect sessions to be an amazing DM. A DM that is willing to learn and is willing to take feedback and is self-critical of the stuff they're putting in and trying to figure out the balance and stuff, that, in my opinion, is the best quality a DM can have. Not to run perfect games. Nobody, like, sometimes you get games where you run perfect games. Sometimes you get times where you run kind of cruddy games because of whatever, technical issues or otherwise. But like, at the end of the day, what makes a good DM is not how well they run their games or what specific roleplay they put on or the amount of myriads of voices they put on. It's DMs that are willing to take criticism and is still finding ways to improve themselves and focusing on making sure they're running good balanced games and not ones that are being overly confident about their ability and won't listen to feedback. DMs that are self-conscious and self-critical and self-observant, that are actually genuinely open to feedback, those in my opinion are the go-to DMs out there. The ones that are stuck up and think they know better, those are the worst DMs to deal with. And with my share of deal with DMs like that, I prefer to deal with somebody that's gonna be more self-conscious. If I ever get to the point where I'm so confident about my DMing ability, somebody stop me, criticize me, please. Nah, dude, I can't even like make videos normally because I look through my own videos. I can't even watch my own videos. It's, you know, it's kind of a problem. I never shared before, but this is me just being real talk. Whenever I watch my own Tales Tomorrow videos afterwards, after finish editing them, I'm just thinking, God, I suck. God, I'm terrible. I should have said something better. I should have said a better line. I should just re-record this entire video. But ultimately, I have to just bite the bullet and be like, I hope somebody out there likes the things that I say, and maybe it helps give somebody better advice and stuff. Being self-critical is the most valuable thing that I am so grateful for myself for. Being self-critical is a good thing, but also there is such thing as being overly self-critical to the point where you break yourself down and start basically not really being a benefit to yourself, but being more of a burden to yourself and making it worse for yourself. You're destroying your own self-confidence. And, you know, there's one thing about being confident in your capabilities versus being confident about every single thing that you do. Being confident about being competent is one thing, but being confident about doing everything perfect and doing everything right and you can do no wrong, that's a whole other thing. If somebody gets themselves into that kind of a land pit, that's usually not a good thing. I do worry a lot of times that maybe I'm not being a good DM or a fair DM or a balanced DM. Maybe some of the balance with stuff is just not good. But I think me focusing on this and keeping that in the back of my head makes me slightly better DM because I'm not just confidently throwing something untested or unplanned at players and not willing to adjust or grow things as need be, which I think is a good thing. DMs get stuck in their ways and think they know better are usually not going to be the good DMs because this is going to be the really tough DMs to deal with. DMs that are willing to change and adapt as necessary to make sure that everybody can have fun, including themselves, I think those are the better DMs, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, this is a little bit of a long-winded end of the video, but I don't know, man. Sometimes I just need to let this out. Maybe I'll cut it out and won't even put it into the video, or maybe I will. I don't know. Either way, if I did put this into video and this is at the end of the video, then that's my advice from me to you. A dumb tiefling on the internet's advice. I hope it helps in any capacity or anything. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.